Our town, our TV. Amherst City Cable.
Call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 7 p.m. on the 2nd of February 2015. Take attendance. Mr. Bukarak.
Here.
Mr. Goodell.
Here.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Van Trulen.
Here.
Mr. Winner.
Here.
The chair is present. We have a motion, we have a letter on file for Auditor Kakuka. Do I have a motion to excuse him? Mr. Miller.
So moved.
Mr. Janik.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to excuse Auditor Kakuka from the meeting tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion to excuse is carried 7-0. The first item of business is A1507, authorization to bid and award Cooper Foster Park Road Improvements Phase 1 Ohio Public Works Commission Round 29, 2015, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, this is part of our State Issue 1 program. This section is where we plan to pass the legislation to apply, giving us permission to apply for State Issue 1 funds back in July. And we went to the committee and they've approved it. And in your submittal I gave you, you'll see where our project is for Cooper Foster Park, doing half of Cooper Foster Park West from North Lake Street about halfway down, and then our plan was to finish the rest of it next year, since as you can see this is a pretty expensive project. So we'll do half of it this year and half of it next year. In addition, we hope we will apply for State Issue 1 funds this summer for 2016. As you see in this project, 41% of it is funds from OWPC, 27% is from a grant, 41% for a loan, and 32% from local funds, which the dollar amounts are in here. And what I'm asking for is authorization to bid and award this. As you know, State Issue 1 funds are not due to July. They're not eligible for July. So what we want to do is, like we do every year, is get a start on it, pass it, and get the engineering done so we can, as soon as the money bid out in June, so we're ready to go in July when the funds are available. As you can see on this pass out that I gave you from Grandma, we're going to, they were asking for funding of $40,000 for our share of the engineering, and we're getting $12,736 back. So we're funding some of this money, but we want to be able to do that so we can get the project done and get ready for bid. So I'll answer any questions you may have regarding this project.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, is it normal for the State Issue 1 funds not to pick up 80/20 on the engineering services, or do we have extra engineering services that we're paying for that the state?
No, don't get confused with State Issue 1 funds being different than the 80/20 that we're doing on 58. Local funds are not, they're based on these percentages that I covered in this letter. It's not an 80/20 project. That's Route 58 that we're going to talk about next. And the one we're going to do this summer, that's an 80/20 project. This is State Issue 1 funds, and it's broken down where you're going to have part of a loan, part of a grant, part of local funds, and part of state funding. So while there's still state projects, they're not an 80/20 in this one.
In this particular one. So we have 41%, is that loan, a loan that we will be taking out that says $300,000?
And that's a $300,000 loan for 20 years at no interest.
Okay, and we will be making payments on that
Yes.
41% loan?
Now, that's $15,000 a year for 20 years, but in talking to the auditor's office and everything, no interest is good money. So we're
Absolutely.
taking advantage right now, and this is why Some years we borrow and some years we don't. They like it when you borrow the money to use that money up. And when there's no interest, it's a plus to borrow it. So we plan on borrowing $300,000 for this year, and soon we're going to go in for the same type of program to finish it off next year.
Very good.
Are there any-
Madam Chair, I don't think that there's any more questions on this one.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bukovac?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mayor, has there been any consideration for the intersection in that area with the increase of traffic with not only the Deerfield Estates, but other potential businesses going up with the gas station? Are we widening that road? Are we doing anything differently than what's there?
With this project, no. We're just repaving the project and improving the storm sewers out there.
Okay. Now, improving the storm sewers, are we, a lot of those properties, if I remember correctly, are all ditched? Are we putting?
We're not
new
sure
storm
that.
sewers?
Can't tell you exactly what we're doing there because we haven't finished the engineering. That's why I'm asking for authorization to go ahead and do this. I can't answer that question right now.
So as part of the scope of the engineering project going to be to take a look at filling those and putting full storm sewers in?
Yes, some of it's where it's possible, we're within the right-of-way, and some of it we're not within the right-of-way.
Okay.
And we don't plan on taking any property, so we're gonna do what we have to do within the right-of-way.
Okay. So the plan is then to pull full storm sewers in, fill that in?
No, I
Okay,
didn't
scope-
say that, no.
But the intention is to look at that with.
We're gonna be looking at it, but where we can do it and where we can afford it. So there may be areas around there because they're either not in the right of way or it's not in the scope of the project or whatever. We're gonna be looking at it, but there's no guarantee we're gonna be putting any storm sewers in and covering those ditches. No, that's not part of this project.
Okay, so we're not going to even include that in the engineering then?
We don't know yet. We're gonna look at it, but it depends where the right of way is. And I'm no engineer. I'm only quoting based on what we're looking at, based what the project consists of. As you see here, we're estimating the project to be at $644,300. And whatever that will fit into the project, that's what we're gonna
So I
spend.
imagine full storm sewers, everything's going to be a larger portion, which would probably exceed the cost of the
That's
project.
right. So I wouldn't say that we'll do storm sewers where we can, but where we can't, this is just gonna be a resurfacing, a little bit of widening project. Similar to what we did on Cooper Foster Park this summer, in 2014.
Right. So is it within the realm of possibility that if there was a certain dollar amount that came out of the engineering study that allowed us to potentially go and look at continuing to do those storm sewers the correct way this time through, that we would be able to get those funds from additionally to this project as opposed to just nixing it?
I would have to come back to council and ask for more money, yes.
Okay, I would like to hopefully have that opportunity to take a look at what those possibilities would be. Um,
Well, let me mention this to you. In the scheme of this project with what we're doing this year, we've got the $206,000 and plus the $40,000 for construction, the $40,000 for engineering. That's one project. Then 58, and what I'm going to be bringing to council in another week, we're going to be coming to council for another $255,000 to do about 58 between Cooper Foster Park and North Ridge. And tonight we're going to discuss preliminary legislation with regard to Route 58 South, from North Ridge Road south to 113. We're part of that project. And they estimate that to be, and this is only preliminary legislation, I'm sure it's going to be more than this. It was about 184,000. So I don't know that we can swing all that with regard to, and also have additional street program, because what my original plan was to spend around 230,000, excuse me, for Cooper Foster Park, 250,000 for 58, and then the balance of the 500,000 of the money we normally spend for intermittent repairs on the other streets. So depending how the money works out and where we're at, we'll come back to you with regard to whether the state wants us pre-funded on the south side of 58 and what we want to do with that money. But it's very confusing right now in the projects we have, but we know we want to do 58, we know we want to do 254. And then we see where we're at from that. Plus the fact, when I say 58, I'm talking both sections, the north section and the south section.
What is the percentage of the total road budget that we're talking about with those, basically those three projects you
We're
mentioned?
spending, we had planned to spend for $1 million.
And the budget's what, 1.4, 1.5 total?
It's, well, we budgeted 1.2, but I'm not gonna spend all that.
So those three projects in themselves is probably going to be the majority, like 90% of our total street budget this year.
Yes.
Okay. The storm sewers, are the storm sewers able to be pulled from any kind of other account other than streets?
No,
Can't do that legally, or we just don't have it budgeted?
we don't have the budget for it.
Okay. Mentioned loan terms are 0%, which is great. What is the actual rest of the terms for that? How long of a period of time for payment?
20 years.
20 years, and what do we typically pay for that on, and that comes out of our street budget
That comes
too?
out of a 206 account, and right now, when I totaled this up to decide how we were gonna handle this, I checked out to see how much we have borrowed previously, and out of that fund, to pay back the state, we owe around $60,000. So we got plenty of room to borrow more money, on these two projects.
Okay,
I'm talking about this one and next year.
right. Long-term buying, I mean, that 206 account, is that the actual?
It's a street improvement fund.
Right, so that's, the more times we borrow, we have less opportunities for new construction the following years, correct?
Well,
Because you're making your payments on it.
Yeah.
I understand the benefits of the 0%.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes, that's true.
Last question I had was, you mentioned money back for 12,000 after we paid the
Right.
40. Why is that?
That's because our share of what the state owes us back for
We'll
the
pay back for it.
process of that.
Okay, all right.
We're just funding the money, and they're gonna give us that 12,000 back.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to presume that large of professional services and engineering, Bramwell is probably going to be doing more than just what the state believes it would take to engineer the repavement of this.
What they take into consideration, they take in the paving of the state's plans, and then as part of that, outside that 20% that we take, the state says anything above and beyond the paving, like the catch basins, the full depth repairs, and any other appurtenances that they have, the city's got to pick up 100% of that. And the paving, normal paving that they would do, that's an 80-20 proposition. And what we're doing with our engineers is doing our share, what we think is going to be extra, and the state's picking up there. That's why you have the total process of the and payment of the engineering fees, because they pay some of it, we pay some of it.
Then I have two questions on that. The first is, if we're going to get Bramhall in there to look at this, I know we have some infrastructure issues. I think our Councilman Bukovac in his ward, he's probably a lot more aware of them than I am on Cooper Foster. And that'll be an area of development both for business, and we'll see some of the houses right now are dealing with water issues over there as well, and ice melt, at least having talked to them. My concern would be that if we're going to put the engineers in there, would it be practical for us to have them look at a full-scale infrastructure and come back with one?
We can't afford it.
Okay, so that would increase the engineering fees. Okay, that would have been the first question.
We're going to be looking at the overall scope of things, but if we're talking, we want a full-fledged job, including pavement, including storm sewers, and including all the good things that go along with that, we're talking another such as circumstances.
I understand that the cost would be the big, but my thoughts were if we could get an idea of what that, through the engineering, at least what we're looking at down the road, so we could come in and look at a long-term plan on how how to bring that in. That was the first one. And the second one is if we are having, it looks like 216 now, North Ridge to all the way to 113, correct?
Same
For the
one.
second one that you'll be bringing to us.
Tonight, yes, that's from Cleveland Avenue, North Ridge, south to 113, and it's a combined project by the state for the township and the city, and our portion of that is about 1 mile.
And I know that's not been brought in front of us, but this goes back to that same question about Cooper Foster. You know, we do have water issues on Edgewood and Ridgeland and some areas back there, and if we're gonna go have those engineers look at Route 58, is there any chance that we can have those engineers look to see if we have issues going under 58 with water removal out of that eastern side of 58? So I'm just putting it as a
The answer to
request.
that is yes, but the thing is, I may have to spend more money than I'm spending right now, because now what we asked the engineers to do is exactly what the state parameters were when they came in and gave us the money, and that's what we're working under. But if we want to expand it, I can expand it, but it's going to cost us more money.
Right.
Above what we got here in these 2 agenda requests. Yes.
I didn't know if we would see a cost savings by having them run the engineering all at one time, since they're already going to be
We
doing
can
that.
look while they're out there, but the thing is, I don't want to do anything to slow down these projects while they're looking somewhere else. So we got a time factor on our hands here too.
Fair enough.
And
then
yes, we can do that.
And that last part leads to, has the OPWC given loans at 0% for that type of scope of work going into
This
water
is
management?
resurfacing. Right now, when you first apply for state issue 1 fund, there's criteria set down. And the reason we like to stay with the Cooper Foster Parks and the Cleveland Avenues and the main drags is you get more points for that, and including resurfacing and stormwater, and they even give extra money for other projects, but they're way down the list for points. We stay on the main drags, we get more points, and they give us more grant money in that area. That's why we stay with the bigger main drags and requesting for state issue 1 funds.
So they have in the past given us 0% loans on things other than repaving.
We have just got grants sometimes without loans, and this time we're going with a grant and a loan and local funds. Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate all the clarification on those. Okay, Madam Chair, thank you.
Mr. Janik.
Just have a question on the, it says the rehabilitation work will include pavement markings and signage. Could there be a possibility of looking at the signage where that curve is at the top of the hill on Cooper Foster that apparently now some of the residents are saying isn't visible enough or isn't?
Which one are we talking about, by North Main Street?
No, it's up towards Cross as you're heading.
Oh, Cross,
towards
yes, we can look at that.
Okay, thank
We
you.
will look at that.
Thank you.
Now, the thing is, I'm saying that, but this might not be 2015, it might be 2016 when we get down that far.
Right.
Because we're only doing half of it now. We're going to start on the west end, the east end, and go west.
Thank
So
you.
that might be in 2016, not 2015.
Thank you.
Mr. Bukovac.
Thank you. And to follow up with Mr. Janik's question about the signage, if there's a signage issue on that road, can we just take care of it? Or are we waiting to do a road project?
No, we don't have to wait. If there's one, just give me a note, tell me where it is, and I'll have somebody look at it.
Well, there currently is a sign there that indicates there's a curve, but apparently the residents are saying it's not very visible. It's yellow, but it's
All right,
not.
I'll take a look at that. We don't have to wait for this.
Yeah, they'd like
Thank you.
something that's more
That's no
visible
problem.
in the way
We'll
of
take a
lighting.
look at it
Thank you.
this week.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Van Truon.
I move to send this on for council with the emergency.
Mr. Goodell.
Second.
Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, there's a motion to take this to the floor of council with the emergency clause and a second. Take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carried, 7-0. A 1507 goes to the floor of council with the emergency. The next Item I have is A1508, an ordinance approving ODOT and the City of Amherst pavement resurfacing project within the City of Amherst on State Route 58 from State Route 113 to North Ridge Road, approximately 1 mile within the Amherst corporate limits, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to add to this in addition to what was discussed?
Well, just one other thing is, this is a little confusing because last year they told me that this project was gonna, the first part of the year, they told me that the project was gonna be done in 2016. In mid-year, they told me they're pushing it back to 2017. And the other day, I just got that they're pushing it back to 2016. So I got some clarification to it, because we've got some work to do on this to make it the same as the legislation I'm going to bring to you in a week or two regarding the north part of 58. And this number that we have in this this is only preliminary legislation. When I come back, will probably be higher than what it is on this piece of paper. So I just want to make sure everybody, if it's the same, that'd be good. But normally, it's low. But in the future legislation that comes, they'll have a more concrete number. But on this preliminary legislation, it's only that 138.5 plus 4 for engineering. Thank you.
Mr. Buchback.
Thank you. Just for clarification, so we're not spending the monies this year, but we're looking at 2016.
Right now, as we're talking, the answer is no. I got a clarification whether they're going to ask for this money to be prepaid for 2016. I'm working on clarification of that right now. But I'll have other legislation coming back, permanent legislation, if that's a good number and that's what they want.
We'll have that for the first reading then?
Yeah, well, I'd like to pass this tonight, because you see there's next Monday,
Right.
because there's a date on here I gotta get this to them on, and, March 6th, you gotta get this to them, and, so I'll just get this preliminary legislation passed, then I'll work on the permanent legislation from them.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to take A1508 to the floor council, please, with the emergency, or as written with emergency.
Mr. Miller, do you have a second?
A second, please.
There's a motion and a second to take this to the floor of council with the emergency. Are there further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion is carried 7-0 to take A1508 to the floor of council with the emergency. Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for answering those questions, clearing a few of those up with myself and the rest of the council. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Goodell.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We are adjourned at 7:25.
Our town, our TV. Amherst City Cable.